Di ko alam kung saan magsisimula kasi ang tagal ko nang kinikimkim ito. Siguro dito na lang sa simpleng umaga habang tahimik pa ang bahay at kumukulo pa lang ang tubig sa takure. Nandito ako sa mesa, may mga papel sa harap ko na kailangan kong i-check mamaya. Religion teacher na ako ngayon, which still feels strange to say out loud. Dati, kapag tinatanong ako ng tao kung ano trabaho ko, proud akong sumagot na teacher ako ng English. Ngayon, iba na ang sagot ko at iba na rin ang laman ng puso ko. Last year, iniwan ako ng boyfriend ko. Pareho kaming 29. Ang sakit pakinggan kahit isang taon na kasi hindi lang siya nakipaghiwalay. Sinabi niya sa akin diretso na hindi na siya masaya sa akin. Tapos habang umiiyak ako, sa kanya dinagdag na may iba na siya. May bago na siyang girlfriend. Parang pinagsabay na suntok at tulak sa bangin. Hindi ko alam kung anong expression ko noon. I just remember my hands going cold and my ears ringing. Parang may siren na malayo pero nasa loob ng ulo ko. Ang nakakahiya, hindi ko agad naisip na galit ako. Ang una ko naisip, kasalanan ko siguro. I started doing mental replay ng lahat ng huling buwan namin. Naging boring ba ako? Naging demanding ba? Naging busy ba masyado sa work? I even asked him, in a very small voice, ano ba dapat kong ayusin? And he said, wala na daw. He was done. Tapos, umalis siya na parang nag-resign lang sa isang club. Walang explanation na may laman, walang paghingi ng sorry na maayos, wala. After that day, parang may part ng katawan ko na nag-shutdown. Pumasok pa ako sa school the next morning kasi may klase akong grade 8. Naka-ponytail, naka-blouse, may chalk dust sa skirt, pero ibang tao na ako. I was smiling like a mask. I kept saying good morning. I was checking papers. Pero bawat pause, bawat tahimik, sumisingit yung tanong na bakit hindi ako pinili, bakit napakadaling palitan. I tried everything to make the relationship work. At iyon ang nakakalito. Hindi ako perfect, alam ko. Pero I showed up. I did the small things. I remembered his schedule. I listened to his work rants kahit pagod na ako. I bought him his favorite bread sa bakery kapag nag-grocery ako. I learned to like his music kahit hindi ko genre. I was the one who always asked, kumain ka na ba? Okay ka lang ba? Kaya nung nalaman ko na may iba pala, parang nabura lahat ng efforts ko para akong nag-igib ng tubig sa butas na balde. When the cheating became real in my head, dun pumasok yung panic. I stopped eating properly. A few bites, tapos parang sumisikip dibdib ko. My sleep became shallow. Gising ako sa madaling araw, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks. Kapag may tunog ng notification sa phone, my heart would jump, kahit hindi para sa akin. I used to love scrolling and laughing at memes. After the breakup, even the smallest ping felt like a threat. I resigned from my teaching job. I know, sa iba, parang big decision na impulsive. Pero that time, ang pakiramdam ko, I had nothing to offer. Teaching requires energy you cannot fake forever. The kids feel it when you are absent inside. I would stand in front of the class and my voice would shake. I would ask a question and I could not focus on their answers. There were days I went to the faculty room and just stared at my lesson plan like it was written in another language. My principal called me in, concerned, and asked if I wanted time off instead. But I was too ashamed to admit I was breaking. I just said I needed to rest. Sa bahay, sinabi ko sa parents ko na pagod lang ako. Hindi ko sinabi yung full story agad kasi ayoko nilang galitin yung ex ko, ayoko rin maging topic sa relatives. Alam niyo naman dito, one story becomes 10 stories by the next weekend. After I quit, akala ko gagaan. Akala ko sleep and staying home would heal me. Pero it got worse. Yung routine na dati kong kinakapitan nawala. I woke up with no reason to get dressed. I would sit on the edge of my bed and my mind would list all the ways my life failed. The days became long and my room became small. May mga kaibigan akong nag-message asking to meet. I ignored them. I would type a reply then delete it. Social anxiety crept in quietly. I started believing everyone was judging me, that people could see I was the girl who got replaced. Dun ko naramdaman yung depression na hindi lang lungkot, hindi siya yung sad lang na iiyak ka tapos okay na. It was emptiness, yung parang wala kang sense sa mundo. I would look at myself in the mirror and feel nothing. I would eat because my mother put food in front of me, not because I wanted to. My laughter felt foreign. I stopped caring about my hair, my nails, my clothes. It scared me because I used to be a person who liked organizing things, who liked cute stationery, who enjoyed planning lessons and making colorful materials. Biglang lahat gray. The trust issues came next. Kahit sa pamilya ko, may hesitation ako. Kapag sinasabi nila na okay lang, nandito kami, may part sa akin na nagdududa. Not because they were lying, but because my brain was convinced that people leave when you become inconvenient. I started thinking love is conditional, that you have to earn it every day. That if you rest, if you fail, you get replaced. It's a very exhausting way to live. One afternoon, my mother asked me to accompany her to church. Catholic kami, pero in those months I avoided anything that felt like it would force me to talk to people. Church is full of people, and people ask questions. Pero that day, she looked tired. She was holding her rosary like it was a lifeline. So I said, yes. I wore a simple dress, tied my hair, and we rode the jeepney. I remember the smell of the road, the hot air, the noise of tricycles. Everything was too loud, but I went anyway. Inside the church, it was cooler, may konting amoy ng kandila at lumang kahoy. I sat near the side, not at the front, because I did not want to be seen. The mass started like usual. The priest's voice echoed. People stood, sat, knelt. I followed without thinking. But when it came to the part of the homily, he talked about brokenness. Not in a dramatic way. Simple lang. He said that sometimes we lose something we thought would stay, and we panic because we built our identity around it. He said, God does not enjoy our pain, but He meets us there. I tried to stay neutral. I told myself, this is just a nice talk, pero biglang lumambot yung dibdib ko. Parang may pader na slowly nag-crack. I looked down at my hands and realized I was trembling. And then, without warning, my tears started. I had been carrying so much shame and anger and sadness, and suddenly it was like someone gave me permission to let it out. After communion, I stayed in my seat. People were leaving. I kept my head down. I did not want anyone to see me crying. But in that quiet moment, I remembered a verse I used to hear when I was younger. Psalm 34 verse 18, The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit. I did not even open a Bible. It just came like a line floating up from deep water. I went home feeling lighter, pero hindi pa healed. Parang may konting space lang sa loob ko na dati siksik. That night, I tried to pray. Hindi ako magaling magdasal. I used to say memorized prayers. But that night, I spoke honestly. I said, Lord, I am tired. I am angry. I do not know how to trust people again. I feel useless. Please help me. I did not feel fireworks. I just felt, for the first time in months, na hindi ako mag-isa. The next weeks, I started going to Mass more regularly. Not because I suddenly became super holy. I went because it was the only place where my brain got quiet. I sat in the same corner. I liked watching people light candles. I liked hearing the choir practice even if it was off-key sometimes. It reminded me that faith is not always polished. It is people showing up. I began reading small parts of the Bible again. I borrowed a copy from my cousin. I started with the Psalms because it felt like someone else already wrote my emotions. There were lines that sounded like my own thoughts, but with hope mixed in. One verse that stayed with me was Matthew 11 verse 28. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest was exactly what I wanted, but not the kind that makes you numb, the kind that makes you breathe again. At the same time, I knew prayer alone did not erase the symptoms. I still had days when my chest felt tight, when I avoided calls, when my mind would replay the breakup. I started noticing triggers, seeing couples, hearing love songs in a mall, even the scent of his old cologne when someone passed by. I told my mother I wanted to see a counselor. She nodded, relieved, like she had been waiting for me to say it. We found someone through a friend. I was embarrassed at first. I kept thinking I should be strong. But the counselor said being strong sometimes means asking for help. Slowly, my comeback began, not like a movie montage, more like tiny steps that look boring from the outside. I started waking up at a consistent time. I made my bed, I walked around the block, I ate breakfast, even when I did not feel hungry. I answered one message a day. I cleaned my desk. I wrote down three things I was thankful for, even if it was just I slept for 5 hours or the sky looked nice. Financially, it was hard. When I quit, I had some savings, but it drained fast. Teachers here do not earn big, and savings do not last when you have bills. I started tutoring two kids in the neighborhood. Simple English lessons, reading comprehension, basic grammar. It felt awkward at first because I was rusty. But when the kids improved, when they smiled because they finally understood a paragraph, something inside me stirred. Maybe I was not useless. Maybe I still had something to give. Around that time, a friend from church told me there was an opening in a Catholic school, religion teacher. My first reaction was, I am not qualified. I am not a theologian. I am not someone who can stand there and sound sure about God when I am still healing. But my friend said they want someone who can relate to students. Someone gentle. I laughed because gentle was not how I felt inside. I felt messy. Still, I applied. I submitted my documents, attended the interview, and answered questions while trying not to shake. They asked why I wanted to teach religion. I did not mention the breakup. I just said I found comfort in faith during a difficult season, and I wanted to help young people see that God is not just a rule book. He is a presence. I expected them to reject me, but they called back. I got hired. My first day was terrifying. I wore a modest blouse, a long skirt, and shoes that pinched my toes. I arrived early because being late would make my anxiety worse. I saw the campus gates, the students arriving with their backpacks, the guard greeting people. The smell of floor wax in the hallway hit me, and suddenly I remembered my old school. My stomach flipped. The teacher's room was noisy. People were chatting, drinking coffee, laughing. I smiled politely. I introduced myself. I tried not to look like someone who just wants to hide. My hands were sweating when I held my chalk. When I entered the classroom, the students stood and greeted me. "Good morning, miss." I responded, "Good morning." My voice came out steadier than I expected. Teaching religion is different. The subject is about values, about stories, about questions that do not have simple answers. The students are curious, but some are also restless. Some look bored. Some look like they are carrying heavy things, even if they are only 14 or 15. On my second week, I gave them a simple activity. I asked them to write anonymously one thing they struggle with that they do not tell anyone. I told them I would not read names. I just wanted to pray for them silently. When I read the papers later, I had to pause. There were notes about parents fighting, notes about fear of failing, notes about self-doubt, and then there were notes that hit me like a stone. My boyfriend cheated. I am scared to trust again. My dad has another family. My mom cries at night. I felt my eyes sting. I realized I was not the only one with a story like mine. Different details, same wound. That week, I prepared a lesson on trust, but not the shallow kind. I talk about how trust takes time, how even in the Bible, people struggled. I did not stand there like a perfect teacher. I told them, in careful words, that sometimes adults also get hurt. That faith does not remove pain instantly, but it gives you somewhere to bring it. I wrote on the board Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. I asked them what that might look like in real life. Not just words. Real actions. After class, one student stayed behind. She was quiet, the type who sits near the window. She said, "Miss, can I ask something?" Her voice was small. She asked if God still loves someone who feels angry at him. I swallowed. I wanted to give her a perfect answer, but I told her the truth. I said, yes. I said even the Psalms are full of honest anger. I said God can handle our questions. I told her about Psalm 147 verse 3. He healeth the broken in heart and bindeth up their wounds. I did not say it like a slogan. I said it like something I needed to. There were days students would make jokes about faith. Not always mean, sometimes just teasing. I also heard comments outside from people I used to know. Some would say, "Bakit ka naging religion teacher? Parang masyado kang seryoso." May iba na sasabihin, "Coping mo lang yan." It stung, but it was not new. I learned to breathe and not fight every comment. My counselor said, "You do not have to convince people to respect you. Just live honestly." My daily routine became a kind of prayer in itself. I wake up around 6, make rice if my mother is busy, pack a simple lunch, sometimes itlog at kamatis, sometimes leftover adobo. I take a jeepney, then a short walk. I pass sari-sari stores opening their shutters. I like that part. It reminds me that life continues. At school, I check the module, prepare activities, talk to co-teachers about classroom management, attend meetings that could have been emails, and then go home tired but not empty. On Fridays, after work, I go to church again. I sit in the same side pew. I light a candle. I pray for my students. I pray for the ones who wrote those anonymous notes. I pray for my own heart because some days I still feel fragile. There are nights when I come home and the loneliness returns like a wave. I would hear my neighbors laughing or see a couple eating street food together and my chest would tighten. But now I know where to go with that feeling. I open my Bible, I read a few lines, I breathe. One verse that became my anchor was the first letter of St. Peter chapter 5 verse 7. Casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. I used to think casting means you throw it and it disappears. But in real life, casting is repeated. You hand it over again and again, sometimes every hour, sometimes every minute. When anxiety is loud, faith is not one big surrender. It is many small surrenders. Unexpectedly, my ex messaged me months after. It was late, maybe around 10. The notification popped up and my hands froze. My body reacted before my mind could. My heart raced, my palms got cold. I stared at his name and felt like I was back in that breakup day. He said he was sorry. He said he made mistakes. He said he missed our talks. He asked if we could meet. I did not reply immediately. I sat on my bed and held my phone like it was hot. Part of me wanted closure. Part of me wanted to ask 100 questions. Part of me wanted to say, "You ruined me." But another part, the part that has been healing slowly, whispered, "Protect your peace." I prayed. Simple lang, "Lord, give me wisdom." Then I remembered John 14 verse 27. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. I asked myself, will meeting him give me peace or take it? I replied the next day, polite but firm. I said I forgive him, but I cannot meet. I said I am rebuilding my life and I need space. I expected him to argue, but he just said, "Okay." When I sent that message, I cried. Not because I wanted him back, but because it felt like I was finally choosing myself. I was finally believing that love does not require me to beg. That dignity is not something you earn from a boyfriend. It is something God already gave you. My counselor said forgiveness does not mean access. It means you stop letting the person live rent-free in your head. I like that phrase, but I also knew it is not instant. There are still moments when I remember him and feel a quick sting, but now it passes faster. I do not feed it with fantasies of what could have been. I let it pass, like traffic noise. One Saturday, our school had an outreach program. We went to a community that was affected by flooding. We brought food packs, school supplies, hygiene kits. I was assigned to help with the kids' activity. We played simple games, coloring, storytelling. One little boy drew a house on high ground and said, "Para hindi na kami lumubog." His voice was matter of fact, no self-pity, just reality. I felt a lump in my throat. Life gives people heavy things too early. After the program, we prayed with the community. No fancy words, just gratitude and hope. A grandmother held my hand and said, "Salamat anak." She did not know my personal pain. She did not know how many nights I cried. But in that moment, her hand felt like a reminder that God works through people, not always through miracles that look big. Sometimes through rice, notebooks, warm smiles. I also found small hobbies again. I started baking on Sundays, banana bread, sometimes pandesal with cheese when I feel brave. My brother laughs at my experiments, but he eats them anyway. I started journaling, not poetic, just honest. I write about my students. I write about the days I feel anxious. I write prayers when I cannot speak them out loud. I planted a small pothos plant near my window. Watching it grow made me strangely happy. Growth is quiet. Sa family, naging mas open din ako. One evening habang naglalaba kami ni Mama, I finally told her the whole story. Not just that we broke up, but that he cheated, that I felt worthless, that I got scared of people. My mother listened without interrupting. She did not offer quick advice. She just said, "Anak, hindi mo kasalanan na may pinili siyang mali." She hugged me and I felt like a child again, but in a good way. That hug did not erase what happened, but it reminded me I still have a home. At school, there were moments that surprised me. One student, a boy who acts tough, suddenly wrote in his reflection paper that he started praying again because he saw his mother crying. He said he felt powerless. He wrote that he tried saying, "Lord, help us," and that it made him feel calmer. When I read that, I closed the paper for a second and held it to my chest. I thought about how God meets people where they are, even in messy homes. Sometimes I want to tell my students my full story, but I do not. They are still kids. They do not need my details. What they need is an adult who is safe, who does not mock them, who does not act like faith is only for perfect people. So, I choose my words carefully. I focus on what is useful. I teach them about compassion, about forgiveness, about boundaries, about prayer, as honesty. I remind them that God's love is not based on performance. There are still days I feel social anxiety. Faculty gatherings still make me nervous. I still overthink after conversations, wondering if I sounded awkward. When I get invited to reunions, I sometimes say no. I still prefer small circles, but I no longer punish myself for it. Healing has seasons. Some parts of me heal faster, some take longer. I remind myself of the second letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians 12 verse 9. My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. That verse used to sound like a line on a poster. Now it feels like permission to be human. Another unexpected thing happened during a retreat. We had a quiet time where we were asked to sit alone and talk to God about our deepest fear. My deepest fear, if I am honest, was not being cheated on again. It was being unlovable. It was the idea that if someone saw the full me, the anxious, the imperfect, they would leave. I sat there and cried quietly, and I told God, I am scared. No one will stay. I did not hear a voice. I did not see a vision. But I remembered Romans 8 verse 28, all things work together for good to them that love God. I used to hate that verse because it sounded like it was excusing pain. But that day, it felt different. It felt like God saying, I can make something good even out of what you did not choose. I can rebuild you without erasing your story. I started noticing that my heartbreak, as heavy as it was, made me more attentive. When a student looks down, I notice. When someone's laughter sounds forced, I notice. When a kid suddenly stops submitting homework, I notice. I do not assume they are lazy. I ask gently. Sometimes they open up, sometimes they do not. But at least they know someone saw them. I think that is part of what love looks like in a classroom. I also learned to set boundaries in my personal life. I stopped entertaining conversations that reduce faith to a joke. I do not fight, but I excuse myself. I choose friends who respect my pace. I do not force myself to date just to prove I moved on. People ask if I am ready. I tell them I am learning to be ready, but I am not rushing. There is peace in not rushing. Some nights, I still remember him. I remember how I used to fold his shirts when he visited, how I used to wait for his replies. I remember the future I imagined. Those memories come like old songs. But I do not live there. I let them pass. I pray for him sometimes not because I want him back, but because bitterness is heavy to carry. I ask God to bless his life in a way that does not harm others. Then I move on with my day. One morning a student approached me after class. She was the same girl near the window. She said, Miss, I think I can trust God more now. She said she still gets scared, but when she prays, she feels like someone is listening. She said she started reading a verse every night. I smiled and felt my throat tighten. Not because I was proud of myself, but because I saw the ripple. When one person finds a small light, it spreads. I went home that day and sat in the jeepney, looking at the street vendors, the kids running, the old man selling taho, the traffic that never ends. Life looked ordinary, but my heart felt full. I realized my comeback was not about proving my ex wrong. It was about coming back to myself. It was about letting God love me when I could not love myself. If you are reading this and you feel like you got replaced, like you were not enough, I do not have a perfect speech. All I can say is, I understand the heaviness, I understand the panic, I understand the way your mind tries to find a reason because a reason feels like control. But sometimes, there is no reason that satisfies you. Sometimes, someone just chooses wrong, and it hurts. You can grieve that without blaming yourself for their decision. I am not saying faith is a shortcut. I still have counseling sessions. I still have anxious days. I still have moments when I want to isolate. But now, I have a foundation that does not shift when people shift. I have a place to bring my fear. I have a God who does not ask me to earn his attention. There is a line I keep returning to when my thoughts start spiraling. Isaiah 41 verse 10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I do not read it like a magic spell. I read it like a hand on my shoulder. A reminder, not that life is easy, but that I am not alone. Sometimes I think about the girl I was before the breakup. She was confident in a simple way. She believed effort could fix everything. She believed if you love enough, you will be loved back. I do not hate her. I feel tenderness for her. She did not know the girl I am now is quieter, more careful, but also more grounded. I know now that love includes truth. Love includes boundaries. Love includes staying even when it is not convenient. And God is the only one who has never left me in my worst season. This year, I still teach, I still check papers, I still get tired, I still ride the same jeepney. My life is not cinematic. It is ordinary. But there are moments now that feel like grace. A student saying thank you. A short prayer that calms my chest. A Sunday mass where I can breathe. A simple meal with my family. A plant that grows slowly by the window. I do not know what happens next. I do not know if I will fall in love again. I do not know if my trust issues will disappear completely. But I know I am not useless. I know I am not defined by being cheated on. I know my story did not end on the day he left. And I know that when I feel broken, I can hold on to this. Psalm 34 verse 18 again. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. That is my life right now. One step at a time. One prayer at a time. One class at a time. And even if some people laugh at my faith, I can live with that. Because for the first time in a long time, I feel loved in a way that does not demand I perform. I feel loved in a way that stays. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for more stories. Once again, I'm Lechon, and I'll see you next time.